This is Chol ambush with Shabbos Chol Hamoed greetings. Chol Hamoed Sukkos, we read a Megillah called Koheles, just like we read Megillah Esther on Purim. We read Megillah Koheles on Sukkos, Shabbos Chol Hamoed Sukkos. There's a story that I think is appropriate for this Megillah. One of the psukim in the Megillah, why we read it, it's another story in and of itself. But the pasuk from Koheles in Perek Zayin says, "Leiv chachamim bebeit avel v'leiv kesilim bebeit simcha." The heart of a wise person is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of simcha. So Rashi says that the idea is that wise people, smart people, think about the day of death. They don't go around thinking about the happy things all the time. Everything's life is a joke. Fools are not worried about the day of death. Their hearts, according to Rashi, the words are solid as a palace. Another Perush says that the wise people are always thinking about mourning in order to be humble and have their hearts fear sin. Fools think about joy and dancing and joking, and that brings them to sin. Now, we're not saying that people should always walk around morose and sad. The idea is that there should be a balance and people should be serious and understand that life is not a joke. Now, the story here we're going to talk about is a man named Blondin, the great Blondin. He was a tightrope walker, and he used to cross Niagara Falls. That was his big claim to fame. It was around the middle of the 1800s. And each time he would cross the falls, he was like the first person. Each time he crossed the falls, more and more people showed up, and he'd charge, admission. And you take a look. He did all kinds of crazy things. He walked around with a wheelbarrow. He stood on a chair. He stopped and did somersaults. He cooked an egg, stood on his head. One time, though, he decided to carry somebody on his back. And that was in 1859, from what I remember here. He had his manager. It was 148 pounds. And it was the only guy that would go on his back. And, they started a trip across, and it looked like it would be everything else he always did. It would be a thrilling trip, but it was safe because this guy knew what he was doing. About halfway across, according to the way I heard the story, some of the wires began to snap a little bit. And there's water everywhere. And Blondin told to the guy, he said, "Look, first of all, I need you to do me a favor. I'm getting a little tired. You got to get down for 1 second. Just get down. And if you don't get down, we're both going to die." So the guy looks at him, "Get down onto what?" He says, "Get down, and you got to give me a chance to rest." And the guy was panicking, but he did somehow. And he got back on somehow. And he says, "And now you have to, when I continue to walk, you're going to have to do exactly as I tell you." And he had to start walking. And then as the wires got more and more frayed, he had to start running. When they finally got to the other end, this Blondin, was greeted as a hero. And this other guy went bonkers, basically. He lost his mind. Now, according to some accounts, he had to get down a few times, like 6 times. But either way, even one time, it was a remarkable story. Now, the way this story is usually used, even by Gentiles, is to describe the difference between emunah and bitachon. Emunah is when you trust Hashem's ability to do something. So in this case, as a mashal, they would say that because of his reputation, everybody knew Blondin was able to carry somebody across Niagara Falls. That's emunah. But only one person trusted him enough to get on his back. That's bitachon. So emunah is knowing Hashem could do something. And bitachon is being comfortable with whatever decision Hashem makes. That's a good description. In this case, of course, wasn't real bitachon because it was a bitachon in a man, and we know not to do that. However, I think there's another lesson we can learn from this story that helps us with Koheles. This guy Colcord, like I said, he lost his mind. He went crazy. But I have a different question. Wasn't he crazy in the first place? I mean, to get on the guy's back like that, that's nuts. He was already insane. What made him think he could get safely across to the other side? So again, we have to look at it this way. He had a remote chance because Blondin had a great track record. He crossed Niagara Falls all these other ways, backwards, blindfolded, at night, without lights, rough lights, stilts on in a bag, on a bicycle, whatever, with a fox, without a fox, you know the story. So if he did all of those things, and this guy, as crazy as he was, he had a chance to get across Niagara Falls on the guy's back. But when we do an avera, what makes us think we can get away with it? No one ever does an avera unless he thinks he can get away with it. No thief, for example, would ever break into a house if he knows for a fact there are police there and he's going to get caught. Nobody who completely understands the consequences of an avera will do that, will trade his olam haba. If he truly knew what olam haba was and he truly knew what that was going to happen to him, he'd never do an avera. So who's really fooling themselves? Colcord, this guy Meshuggah gets on the guy's back, or us? If we look at it this way, then we're the fools because we're not worried about the day of death. So I wish everybody a great Shabbos and an enjoyable and meaningful reading of Koheles.